Good morning. Call the board meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, good morning. Consideration of agenda items. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? Sheila, anything?
Hearing none, I move to approve the agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Kruger.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Szymanski. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Pohlmeyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Szymanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries 5-0. Consent agenda.
Chair, I move the approval of the consent agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Pohlmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Pohlmeyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Szymanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries 5-0. Our COVID-19 update. Megan, are you on the call? Or on the? There she.
Her audio just got logged in, she'll need to be unmuted.
We'll give her a second.
Maybe Kevin could go first?
Kevin, are you there? You ready to go?
I sure am. So,
Okay, we'll take your update. Maybe we can get a hold of Megan in the meantime.
sure, yeah, just don't have a whole lot of up-to-date. We are sitting very good on our PPE supply. Don't have the final numbers in front of me, but we got about another 1,500 non-surgical face masks yesterday that we ordered at the end of March. So shipments are supposed to be coming in this week for some more gowns. And that's the only things that we're kind of waiting on. So we're sitting pretty good. I know a lot of the police, fire, ambulance agencies across McLeod County also are sitting pretty good on PPE since when we first started, so very proud to say that. Later this week, we're also getting information, or supplies, I should say, for our critical infrastructure facilities, and that's coming from the state, so that is at no cost to us. So some of the sectors that are involved are food, water and shelter, safety and security, energy, communications, transportation, and hazardous materials. So that is kind of the critical infrastructure that I kind of started a list of agencies in those sectors in McLeod County that we can start getting PPE out to them. I'm not sure what we're going to be getting yet, but that's going to be kind of on the works here this week. Also very proud to say that we have this emergency management performance grant funding specific to COVID-19. That is something that is, we had for a while. It was about $7,051. They redid the formulas with passing everything out to the county, so we have about $5,700 more that we're getting. So that's going to be about $12,749 that we're getting for emergency management to help fight COVID-19. So this is going to be for equipment planning, maybe some overtime expenses and some different things there. So that is kind of, we're in the plans to figure out how we want to spend that best for the county, and that's something we'll be working very closely with Megan and the rest of Lori and the rest of the team there. So we'll kind of get that kind of rolling here as the weeks kind of progress. Then lastly is we had our applicants briefing for our FEMA reimbursement process. So we're probably going to be going to monthly submittals. So usually the disaster, the projects all have to be completed, and then at the end you get your money. So we don't really know when the end of sight in this is. So we're actually going to be probably submitting monthly, and then we'll be getting reimbursements kind of throughout the process as we go forward. So I'll be working with Colleen Roback here in finance to kind of work on those details and get those submitted. So just to kind of let you know that's going to be coming up to date. So that should be all for today.
All right. Any questions for Kevin?
I've got one, Mr. Chair.
Just a second. Rich, we'll get you the microphone.
Kevin, one question that comes up a little bit is with the PPEs and the gowns and so forth that are coming into the county. Where are those designated to go, or are they just for extra for whom?
We keep those and we kind of prioritize them according to their service. So obviously, healthcare would probably be the #1 priority that we would have. Anything that generalizes the aerosolized procedures, so whether you're, intubating somebody or something like that, we'll kind of go to public safety, so fire, those that would respond to medicals, ambulances, and then kind of that way. So that's kind of our main priorities that we would have for those.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else?
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kevin, you'd mentioned the PPEs going to medical providers as a priority. Are they getting PPEs directly, or everything that they utilize coming through county facilities?
There are certain agencies that are getting PPE directly from the State Emergency Operations Center. So law enforcement, we've got, I think, 10 masks and 8 pair of gloves per licensed officer. So that came and we disseminated that out. Fire departments have got equipment right through the state EOC, through the fire marshal's office. So that came directly to them and stuff. So we're kind of doing that. And then the station or the PPE that we have for the county is kind of supplement everything. So when we started purchasing its equipment, we didn't know what was going to be coming down the road. So I think that's why we're sitting on pretty good PPE right now. But there are agencies that are getting them directly from the state as well.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. I'm glad to see they got everything pretty well covered. I appreciate it.
All right, very good. Thank you, Kevin. All right, Megan, good morning.
Good morning. Good to be with you today. I'm going to just give a brief update again this morning because we have our Health and Human Services Committee this afternoon where we will be spending a little bit more time in depth on COVID. I also was just going to add, I don't want to start with an overall case count this morning. The Minnesota Health Department's having a little bit of trouble getting data in their system timely, and so we don't feel like we have accurate counts right now for statewide. So I'm going to hold off on that and see if by this afternoon we have a better update for you with more accurate information. I can tell you, as of this morning, we have 18 positive COVID cases in McLeod County, none currently in the hospital, and we've been fortunate so far in that we do not have any in any of our long-term care congregate living facilities in the county, so that's really good news. The big news this week for us is that we've been discussing the long-term care 5-point plan, which had recommended testing, if there would be a positive case in any long-term care facility, then the state was suggesting that we test everybody in that facility. And that was going to be a lot of work as it was. And then this new directive came down from the federal government to test everybody in all long-term care facilities. So we're working on trying to help implement those plans here locally. Let's see, the other news this week, we have been working closely with our local medical providers, both Hutchinson Health and GRH here in town, to make sure that COVID positive individuals are connected to local resources and their essential needs are met. We're facing a little bit of a challenge right now in that it sometimes takes someone 5 to 7 days to get a test result back after they go in. And then beyond that, it can take us 48 to 72 hours to get notified by the health department of a positive case. So we're working with our local healthcare providers to get information about positive tests earlier in the process. We don't want there to be a gap in response, and so in local public health here, we're trying to fill that gap when it sometimes exists, getting the information from the health department to make sure that, again, that person's needs are met if they need to still be in isolation for a period of time. And last but not least, we've entered fit testing for N95 masks to McLeod County dental providers who are coming back online. And we will be, as the weeks go on here, providing fit testing to other interested providers. We know the eye doctors are coming back online too as well, so we'll be working with them as well. So that's all I have for you this morning. Again, hopefully we'll have more updated data by this afternoon, and we'll discuss a little bit more about the most recent run of the Minnesota model predicting case impact and spread of COVID here in Minnesota over the summer. And we'll talk a little bit about, looking forward into the future, how our department is responding. So if there's any questions, Mr. Chair, I can take those. Otherwise, that's all I have for you this morning.
Commissioners, any questions for Megan? Okay, Sheila, go ahead.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. As you know, we opened up some of our public-facing services today. I talked to Connie a little bit ago, and I think she is online, but she had 14 people in line everyone was socially distanced and following the markings out at that facility to get them help with things that they've been waiting for a while. Again, we still cannot offer passports. However, we are up and running over there today. So I was going to briefly share with you and the public our COVID-19 preparedness plan for McLeod County offices that we needed to write in order to be able to reopen. It's pretty simple. I'm not going to go over it in detail. It is available on our website, and I just need to see how to be able to share my screen real quick. One moment. Okay, can everyone see that? Thank you. So here's our 3-page preparedness plan for McLeod County offices, which all of the commissioners received late last week. All of our employees are required to review, and this is a portfolio, so that's the first document listed. The second is talking about COVID-19 and when to return to work. That comes from the Minnesota Department of Health. An employee screening tool that we would use for every day before people are coming to work to self-check themselves to make sure that they're safe to come to work. Our employee recommended guidance that we've been using throughout the past couple of months, which is updated continuously as we learn more. The personnel policy section that talks about data privacy for our employees. A sign about Stay Safe Minnesota and the changes that started yesterday for our employees. And also a CDC cloth-based covering guidance for people because a lot of our employees are wearing cloth face coverings at this time. So that is the update that I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions for Sheila?
Okay, so today Commissioner Wright is going to go over a situation that we need to review for the fairground. Of course, we're trying to figure out how do we reintegrate normal events going on and what can we do for today. So Randy Starkey and Kelly Pastuel, thank you, are here today as well for some questions with that, and I'll hand it over to him. Thank you.
Thank you. What started this topic this past week, Joe and I received an email from Kelly wondering about having an event at our county fairgrounds, and what intrigued me with her email is that she explained how she's been able to maintain classes with her students during this time, and also several points of ideas that she had in how to have her event staying within the safety guidelines, and there were some really great ideas. And I definitely believe that it's time to start exploring options and how to utilize what I believe is our shining gem of McLeod County, which is our county fairgrounds, as we have numerous reunions and birthday parties and just a countless numbers of events there that have been postponed or canceled, and it's time to get those things back on track if we can. And so I asked Kelly to come join us today, as well as Randy Starkey, manager at the fairgrounds. And I'm going to have Kelly just talk a couple minutes about some of the ideas that she presented, which, again, I think it's great that someone came to us with ideas. We didn't come up with them. They're not from somebody else's mandate. It's a constituent, a business owner that came up with some thoughts and how to have an event. And from there, I think the next thing I want to try and figure out with the board is how we can have these events and get things opened up at our fairgrounds. So Kelly, could you please come forward, and Hannah will help you with that.
I'm right here and use my, thank you. You can actually, if you wouldn't mind. Oh, there you go, that's perfect.
Oh, boy.
You can just talk to that.
Well, thank you for hearing me out this morning. Just very quickly, background information is, you're dealing with kids, they're looking for something, so we continued our classes throughout the season, and I had to come, how can I devise a way to keep in social distance, still do what they're doing, and then just present it to the people while adhering to crowd sizes, right, adhering to social distancing and whatnot. So I wrote Paul and I wrote Mr. Nagel. Essentially, I needed a facility that had enough square footage to adhere to the crowd size that I'm considering. With talking to Randy last night, outside is perfect. because, it's kind of not limited, but I also needed to consider rain, and whatnot, so I thought the pavilion would be a good place to put the kids and the parents. How do you regulate crowd? Well, I have a staff of many who, through the years, we've had to do this all the time. We had to, we do reserved seating, so essentially we'd be setting up reserved seating, and with people, they would have to, just like any event, tell me how many people are coming, space those things far enough apart where we're at that. I bought 1,000 masks. I bought gloves of every size. I bought Purell. I bought disinfectant. I've got thermometers for their heads so as they enter and whatnot. But me being a choreographer and a stager for so many years, this is not a complicated thing for me to say, okay, kids, we put dots on the floor so they make sure that they're staying those distance apart. We read them in with little separators, or wear gloves or whatever with their hands behind the back. Onto the stage, they do their thing, they go out the other way. They come in one way, they go out the other way, and then they go to a space that's socially distanced to change if that is too many people. I've also arranged mini recitals, like certain group of people for a certain amount of time, do this, exit, next group of people come in. All of it is highly regulated, and I did this kind of with my pictures about 2 weeks ago, and it worked fluid. Everybody I know, all the parents, are willing to work within the guidelines of the CDC. No one's out to get anybody sick. They just want their kids to be able to do something outside of e-learning, and so outside is, definitely doable. Inside is preferable in the commercial building with it's got 22,000 square feet, so it is doable for the numbers I'm looking at. So that's just kind of what I'm looking to do. And I'm willing to take suggestions on how to make that happen even more. So I thank you for your time. I made a sheet for everybody so they can just kind of see. I'll let you hand that out.
When are you planning on doing this?
June 8th, for 9th and 10th. So after the first, when I think you said groups of 50 after the first, hopefully. So if I have to stick within that, I can mini recital it and time it to the nth. Make sure, whatever. I just want to get these kids on stage. And so Randy said he handles like the Ridgewater graduations and whatnot. And so he said as long as I had a seating chart, he didn't see the obstacles in being able to place people far enough apart. And usher, everyone, once I have all their names who's coming, when can you arrive, just to orchestrate. It's a lot of logistics, but something I'm completely capable of handling along with my staff.
Well, I think we want to help you. Now let's figure out if we can. Paul, anything you want to add right away?
Just see if Randy has anything to add. You know how many events he's had to say no to, so let's see if Randy has any additional suggestions. And from there, let's talk about it as a board, what we can do.
Morning, everybody. Morning. Thanks for inviting us, and Kelly did a good job. As you may know, I'm not going to speak on behalf of her because what she does, she knows what she's doing, and known her for many years, and she's organized. So what she says is, I think it's for sure, so she did a good job with that. We made some handouts last night. As you can see, this one that you made in front of you was for specifically for the commercial building. We didn't do one for the outside of the pavilion just because it's outside and space is unlimited. So the dotted line, if you picture when you walk into the gymnasium, the dotted line will be to the east. So the courts are spaced. The west side is court 1, 2, 3, and 4. So court 4, where the dotted line is, where it says dancers, that'd be 50 by 110 feet. Okay, so that's 5,500 square feet. And Kelly, what she just reiterated on was she'd have her dancers 6 feet apart on certain spots, so that's not a problem. The line part is rows of 6 feet or more. If you take them rows on where the court 1 or court 3 and 4 end, you go all the way to court 1, which is, if you look on there, the 16,500 square feet. So if you took that, each person, times 4 would be 24 square feet. If you did every single person, including family members, and spread them six feet apart in each chair, which I'm not sure exactly how you think you want to do that. That came up to three, I think I put that on the second page, what was that number? Minimum, that's 360 people. That's 24 square feet around the person. So that's by utilizing the whole facility. I think Kelly indicated last night, it was less than 400, I believe, was the whole occupancy of everybody together. So that's not even breaking it down in segments. So this is doable, but obviously, you know, we gotta go under the guidelines of what the state of Minnesota and CDC recommend. So she touched on a few things, which we talked about I talked to her about is obviously staffing the event. A lot of that would depend on her. We don't want to get a lot of our staff involved in that because we want to stay as much out of this as possible, according to the guidelines. However, we would be there. We talked about the bathrooms. We're spending some money, which you all know, on new bathrooms. So they're just about done. Next week we'll have the partitions in. We talked about men's and women's bathroom, about having somebody standing at each bathroom. Kelly would be in charge of that, having personnel doing that, having wipes. Each person would go into the bathroom. When they would go, they'd take a wipe with them. When they're done, they'd wipe off the handle or anything that they would touch. That would be totally up to her and their responsibility. But 80% of the stuff we now put in is all touchless. The faucets in each bathroom are touchless. The urinals, the toilets are not. So that would be about the only thing between that and the door handle that would be touched. The doors coming into the facility would be open, so there'd be no doors opening. So the break door coming in, the outside door, the door into the gymnasium, as you can see on the schematic too, as you enter and exit, them doors would also be open. There'd be no touching. As far as the students, we talked about that, how they would gather, or participants. The horticulture building across the street is 4,800 square feet. They would all gather in there, be spaced. They would come in, do their thing. That's it. Pretty simple. So, but yeah. So I'm here just, like Paul said, he wanted me here to explain how the facility would work. I don't make the decisions. That's totally up to you. I agree. It's great if we can get some things going. I think I sent the list. A few of you have seen that, the smaller things that we want to start now. So any way we can help, we want to get going too.
This is get lost in the weeds. Would you put a stage in there?
No, Kelly does not want a stage.
Okay.
Yep. So, thank you.
Thanks, Randy. So, after hearing this morning, yes, I want to find a way to have events there, and I think those individuals that can think outside the box and figure out a way to continue to run their business or their service, those are the ones that we need to capitalize on and assist them in doing so. They're going to be the ones that are going to take a leading role in shaping what's going to be the new normal out of all this. And so, I'm just going to throw it out there. I think we need to start having events. I think that this recital can happen and other events out there. And the only thing that we need from individuals would be their kind of a safety plan that they have that'll be submitted to Randy and approved by administration. If help needs to be put together to comply with the safety guidelines, Sheila or Randy can assist with that, but that plan needs to be submitted for whatever the event is, and if it looks good, they can go right ahead and have their whatever they want to do. So that's kind of what I'm after this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of questions. One, we referred to the seating on the floor. But I'm thinking family units. Could family units sit together rather than, husband and wife being 6 feet apart?
Nobody else.
Yeah, so my plan was, because people who live together, quarantine together, so once they've determined how many seats they would need, that would be able to put those together and then space out the next group. And so it would be a lot of work in the process, but just basically getting firm numbers from people, how many can sit together, how many are coming, and then reserve seating, and reserved ushering, with time arrival and whatnot.
And then the next question is a legal question. Do we need any disclaimer as far as the county, allowing this in our facility, to say that we would not be responsible for any transmission of COVID-19. Wait for the mic.
You cannot disclaim your way out of responsibility for your facility. So the first thing that has to be abundantly clear is everything has to abide by the governor's order, whatever is in effect at that time. And I would also suggest that whoever is planning the event send a copy of their plan and get it approved by either the Hutchinson Police Chief or Adam Ament, the lieutenant. And by doing that, they are the law enforcement that's directly responsible for the area there. And letting them know beforehand is just going to make everything run smoother, and it's going to ensure that we're in compliance with what the governor's orders are.
Well, from what I'm hearing and seeing is everybody's in on doing this. Just how can we do it? And we have to make sure we comply with the orders that are out there. And Kelly's shaking her head that she agrees and understands that. So Mike, or whomever, what's the next step?
Well, you currently have in place a shutdown of that facility. What I would recommend that you do, if you want to approve this, is to agree that there can be a limited opening of the facility for events that are approved with the appropriate amount of spacing, with the appropriate amount of safety considerations, and let that be regulated by your manager of the facility.
So our closure of the facility only was for yesterday and tonight. Right now, we're just following the governor's executive orders in regards to the restrictions. So what we would need to do is find how we can arrange the event while meeting the restrictions. However, it goes past the June 1st date. It's on June 9th and 10th. So that'll probably change. So when Commissioner Wright talked to me about this, I just said if we were going to do it, we would need to find the ways to hold the event while still meeting any guidelines that are placed upon us. And I don't think that we will have an issue doing that, but it may mean different than what you just presented. And I think that that's okay, as long as you can still plan to have your event, but it may look differently day by day. So just preparing the families and understanding that some of that's going to be difficult to do. Like, you're not going to want to walk up to someone and take their temperature there. You're going to ask them to do that before they would come and not come if they're not able to do so. But like you said, if you would like administration's help, what we would do is help arrange the event within the guidelines. And I don't think that that would be an issue.
As long as we have some checks and balances in this to make sure, you know, that the plan is in place. And this is awesome, right? But not everybody's going to have this. We know that. I mean, this almost, you know, this is really good. Thank you. And it makes it easy for us to say this. But, you know, the next person's going to come in with a, you know, a couple crayons and a, you know, tell us it's, yeah, we'll do it. Well, that's going to be harder to say yes to. So, it's, in theory, the fairgrounds is open. However, we don't have any events that we cannot violate an order right now. So, is a motion appropriate that under the direction of administration and fairgrounds management, events can be held there? I mean, so I'm spitballing here a little bit.
Within compliance with the governor's orders.
Okay.
I'll make that a motion and then add to it that the safety plan needs to be approved by Hutchinson Police Department and also the Bug County Administration.
All right, we're clear on the motion, everyone? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Fullmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Fullmeyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Szymanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
Commissioner Nagel is yes. Motion carries 5-0. Good luck. All right.
Thank I even noticed Quick Trip had, donuts back in the case this morning, so we're all looking for.
Is that a cop joke or what?
No. If you wanna take it that way, go right ahead.
Thanks.
Quick Trip. Heck, yeah. I was happy.
Single serve.
Yeah.
All right. Sheriff's Office. Tim, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can't see you. Are we gonna see you?
No.
Okay, go ahead then.
We're requesting permission to auction, 2 snowmobiles. The first one is a 1999 Articat 600Z, and the second one is a 2001 Articat Pantera 580 EFI, through Fahey Auctions in Glencoe. The snowmobiles haven't been used in several years, and we no longer participate in the state's snowmobile grant. With the purchase of the Bobcat UTV last year, we're able to move on from these sleds, which haven't been used for quite a while.
Okay, makes sense to me. Any questions for Tim?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Szymanski?
I move to approve the request to snowmobiles through Fahey Sales Agency.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. Commissioner Wright? Yes. Commissioner Polmeyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Szymanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
Commissioner Nagel is yes. Motion carries 5-0. Anything else, Tim?
Nope, that'll do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Environmental Services. Good morning, Mark.
Morning. One item on the agenda this morning, it is Resolution 20 CB-24, and this is expressing an intent to participate in One Watershed, One Planning and supporting a planning grant application. So I'm going to read through that just for the record. Whereas McLeod County exists in a portion of One Watershed Planning Area 13, South Fork Crow River, as established by the Board of Water and Soil Resources, known as Bowser. And whereas other watershed districts, watershed management organizations, counties, and county soil and water conservation districts in Planning Area 13 have expressed an interest in initiating One Watershed Planning and in applying for a planning grant from Bowser. And whereas the McLeod County Soil and Water Conservation District and Buffalo Creek Watershed District have initiated an application for a planning grant from Bowser, and whereas all the interested entities, including the county, are required by statutes Chapter 103B, 103C, or 103D to prepare and adopt a water management plan for their organization or entity, and whereas One Watershed, One Planning facilitates coordination of water management priorities, goals, and actions across the planning area and between entities, and whereas One Watershed Planning results in a One Watershed, One Plan, watershed management plan, that may be adopted by the participating entities to replace their individually required plans under statutes Chapter 103B, 103C, and 103D. And whereas the Board of Commissioners finds merit in coordinating with its neighboring entities in a One Watershed planning effort and in seeking a planning grant to facilitate coordination and development of a One Watershed, One Plan for Planning Area 13. Therefore, be it resolved that the County Board of Commissioners intends to participate in One Watershed Planning for Planning Area 13 should the process move forward. And further, the Board of the Board supports the efforts of the McLeod County Soil and Water Conservation District and Buffalo Creek Watershed District to seek a planning grant from the Bowser for the planning effort. And further, the Board reserves any decision on whether to adopt a subsequent One Watershed, One Plan to replace its current plan. Rather, the Board, by intending to participate fully, the planning process seeks to coordinate its existing priorities, goals, and actions with any subsequent One Watershed, One Plan. With that being said, in 2018, we applied for an extension from Bowser for our water plan. That is a 10-year plan. We were granted that. There was supposed to be a 5-year update, knowing that this was coming down the pipe. So with that being said, I fully support this 100%. It makes sense. That is the direction that Bowser would like to move to reduce the number of plans that they have to support and facilitate throughout the state.
Any questions for Mark? Otherwise, we'll need a motion to approve. Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion. Motion by Commissioner Kruger, is there a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Szymanski. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Mark, you said this relates to a grant application, so there's no levy dollars committed, on behalf of McLeod County in this one watershed plan. It's all, state and federal funding coming down through Bowser.
So what you're essentially approving today is just the intent to participate as a partner. If we are successful in obtaining that grant, I would say August we would know sometime. If we're successful in doing that, then we would start the process of establishing a work group as well as a policy committee. Mr. Kruger currently sits on that policy committee, and Mr. Wright's the alternate, for Lower Midwest, which encompasses the Highland watershed. Been some difficulties, obviously, in this environment trying to coordinate meetings, but same process.
Thank you. Chair. Yes, sir. It's just a comment. Mark's right. I mean, it's funded right now, and I mean, there's going to be some hurdles going down the road. I just want to clarify that may include some local funding, and we're going through some. I'll bring it up probably at the next meeting. We're going through some challenges with the North Fork right now on hiring a manager and who funds it, and they're trying to make sure it's funded through the grants that we get, but sometimes, especially with what's going on right now, that's going to be a challenge.
Doug or Mark, I should be the local funding piece. I get it, but I mean, it's not like we get sprung on that, right? I mean, we're going to know in advance.
Yeah,
if that's coming. We can budget for it.
Absolutely.
Plan for it.
Absolutely. And so just to, to exemplify a little bit of what Mr. Kruger had talked about, if we were to go the route of establishing a coordinator that would work on behalf of this entity as a South Fork group, that's when we would be coming to the board asking for dollars to contribute to that environment. We are a long way from that right now.
And we'll see that coming.
Yeah, absolutely. We are just in the process of trying to adopt a plan or get a grant to work on adopting a plan. Once we adopt that plan, then we would rely on our policy group, to decide which direction we go as an entity to work as one group if we so choose to do that. So with that being said, you're not committing any dollars at this point by adopting this resolution. This is merely just to begin the process of trying to get something started. Soil and Water Office, McLeod County Soil and Water Office has agreed to take the lead as well as Buffalo Creek Watershed. So that's very, very good for us. Majority of the county is under that South Fork watershed, South Fork Row watershed. So it's good to keep that local. Bowser did have a conference call on May 4th. The dollars currently are still there. So it's good that we get this application in and hopefully get funded for this so that at the second half of this year we can get working on that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we are fortunate that we have the Soil and Water. It's a joint powers with us now, and the relationships that we have with the watersheds districts are all good. So we're fortunate in that.
All right. I lost track. Where are we at? We have a motion on the floor. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. Commissioner Wright? Yes. Commissioner Polmeyer? Yes. Commissioner Schmansky?
Yeah.
Commissioner Kruger? Yes. Commissioner Nagel is yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Information technology. Matt?
Morning.
You look like you're flying a plane.
Here to request permission to consider approval of a 36-month agreement with Centurylink for phone service at the McLeod County Government Center for a cost of $17,778.30 with funds from the communications budget. Costs for these services are $490 plus fees on a monthly reoccurring basis with a $138.30 one-time installation fee. This agreement will go into effect at the completion of the installation and activation of services at the Government Center and will replace services currently at the Health and Human Services building. There may be some overlap with billing for services at both locations during the transition. These services provide the connection between Centurylink and the county phone system and allowing the county to make and receive phone calls.
What about the North Complex, Matt?
This particular service is not. This particular service is not at the North Complex building. This is for a what's called a trunk line between us and the phone company. We have two of those with Centurylink. One's currently located at the courthouse and one is at Health and Human Services. The one at Health and Human Services is to be moved to the Government Center.
Okay. Sheila, anything to add on this?
No, we've discussed, we pulled this actually off of the, sorry. We discussed this when we were building our agenda for the board meeting. We pulled it off of the consent agenda and put it on the regular agenda to make sure that we were going over it. However, this is an expected cost. We knew that we would be facing this, and Matt has been working on this pretty tirelessly for some time. He had some issues getting assistance for quite a while, and thankfully they were able to help him out with it now and get all the detail intact, so I don't really have anything to add unless you have questions.
Any questions for Matt or Sheila from the commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I'd move the approval of this item.
Motion by Commissioner Polmeyer, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Szymanski, any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Polmeyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Szymanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
And I'm yes. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Building maintenance, Scott Gribna.
Morning, everyone. Here to request approval to upgrade the existing jail elevator to bring it up to code, as well as upgrade the controls for a cost of $77,763 with funds from the county building's major repair budget. The elevator was installed and the elevator was complete. And the technology used to control the elevator is obsolete. So if this technology fails, we would be down for probably 3 months. And the jail depends on this elevator when transporting inmates into the various courtrooms.
Mr. Chair? This is an expected expense. Scott called me about this last week. Obviously, with the timing of COVID-19 and so much uncertainty going on, we struggle when we have to spend this much money on a repair or any project throughout the county without it looking like it was expected. But this has been budgeted for 2020. It could come into a safety issue. As you know, we have had troubles with that elevator and the technology being obsolete, so we decided that it would be best to continue moving forward with that since it was budgeted for this year. Thank you.
Very good, thank you for the explanation. Any questions from the commissioners?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I move to approve the upgrading of the elevator in the courthouse building.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Kruger, any discussion?
Chair, just my comment, not so much discussion. I also asked the same questions earlier and when we were setting up the agenda, and it had gotten lost, but I remember some of our discussions when we did the law enforcement building on this, and it's budgeted, and that was my big question also.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Polmeyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Szymanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
Commissioner Nagel is yes. Motion carries 5-0. Thanks, Scott, unless there's anything else.
No, thank you.
All right. Public Works. Morning, John.
Good morning. What I have for you today is to consider award of a construction project we had for SP 43070-019. This was our highway safety improvement project, federally funded project. This was on County Road 7 between 212 and South Grid Road. The low bid on that was Dunnick Incorporated out of Princeburg, Minnesota. Low bid was $810,427.24. The next bid was Molnow Trucking, and that was $932,122.13. And our third bid was Knife River for $971,528.74. Being this was a highway safety improvement project with federal funds, it does have to go through a Mndot, a pretty rigid approval process in their Office of Civil Rights. Right now, it has not received clearance from Mndot, so that is why I put the contingent upon Mndot approvals in there. One thing, Dunnick Brothers did not meet DBE goal of the project, so they have to go through a good faith effort with Mndot to prove why they could not meet the DBE goal. The DBE goal is acronym for Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. It's a program Mndot has for to get more women and minority businesses in the construction projects. Special federal funds require that, and hopefully we'll get that approval, and it won't mean anything. If they do not get that approval, our options would be to award it to the second place bid, which is another $122,000 higher than the low bid, which I don't think we want to do. Or we could rebid the project. Again, I have not received the clearance from them yet, so I'd like to approve this contingent upon that. So if we get the award or get the notice from Mndot, we don't have to wait another 2 weeks for a board meeting to come back to you folks.
That sounds reasonable. Any questions for John? Okay.
I'll make that a motion contingent on the Mndot approval.
Motion by Commissioner Wright. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fulmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. Commissioner Wright? Yes. Commissioner Fulmeyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Smansky?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
And I'm yes. Motion carries 5-0. Anything else, John?
Nope, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Auditor Treasurer's Office.
Morning.
Morning.
So today I'm here to discuss scheduling public hearings for 63 and 64, CD 63 and 64. First, I'd like to take just a couple minutes and go through the history of the projects. So in December, we had landowner meetings, which were well attended, and decisions were made as far as the future of the systems. In January, the board approved the services agreements by Houston Engineering, and CD 63, historic review and repair report, and then CD 64, historic review and culvert sizing. And then I wanted to provide an update to the board of the progress to date. So Houston Engineering has completed portions of the agreements. And in speaking to Lisa Odens, the engineer of Houston Engineering yesterday, she agreed to give just a short summary of what's complete, what's left to be done, and options for meetings going forward. So that I can effectively schedule the meetings in this environment, you know, most efficiently if we need to move forward with one or not the other or whichever, but, and also to give the most consideration, you know, to the townships and road authorities with respect to culvert replacement if that's needed. So Lisa, if you are on the call, would you want to provide us that update?
Sure. Can you guys all hear me?
Yep.
So I'll start with review for you guys and then a repair report. We've completed the historic review and we've started on the repair report. Typically, there would have been a public hearing after the historic review where you would re-establish the drainage record. But with COVID, we couldn't get that scheduled. So what we're looking for on that one from you guys would be a decision on what you would like the schedule to look like. There was some discussion on, you know, what would things need to be, when would things need to be done if you were to do construction this fall. There was some potential where we could really push there if you authorized us to start plans even before we've done these hearings, and then you would, you know, once things can open up, you would schedule your historic review, your repair report hearing all in one go, and then basically these plans would be all ready to go at that point. And that's, you know, assuming that landowners don't bring up some issues, which could always happen. So that would be the most aggressive schedule you could set, and that would essentially exclude the option to do the side slope laybacks that you had asked us to consider as an alternative, because that would not allow you guys to coordinate with the landowners on getting the additional land there. So I guess that's another thing to consider with the schedule, whether you would want a really aggressive schedule to do construction in the fall, potentially, you know, if you ordered the repair. Otherwise, what we'd probably recommend so that there can be a little more landowner coordination in advance of the plans would be to do construction next fall if you were to order any project, and then do your repair report hearings and historic review hearings later this summer. A question we had, which would be more of a question for your legal counsel, we're likely to finish our repair report before things really open up to the public where you can have a public hearing. We weren't sure if you can legally do the reestablish the drainage record and the repair report hearing all in one go. So that would be a question for Michael. If he says that's okay, then we could hit the ground running as soon as things are ready to go with public meetings.
Okay.
Any
response to that? Did he catch you surprised?
No, it didn't.
Just a second, we'll have Mike come up here, okay?
Okay.
When would you be ready for your approximate repair report complete, Lisa?
I think we could get you guys a draft repair report end of June, and then have something ready for landowners, a final repair report maybe beginning of July.
I was present at both of the meetings for 63 and 64, and there is an overwhelming indication that there's a need for something to be done there. I think Commissioner Wright, that's your district, correct?
Yes, and you are exactly correct.
So I don't have any problem with combining the historical review and the repair report. The actual specs and bidding are going to have to be changed once the landowner input is received once the repair report is presented, because they're going to have additional information. So we're going to need a little bit of flexibility there, but I don't have any problem with combining the approval of the historical review and the approval of the repair report. The award of the contract is going to have to be after that quite a little bit.
So can we even set a hearing?
Well, we're looking probably the middle of July, and I don't know if 64 is going to be ready to go at the same time. We have previously held those very closely together. I think that we ought to schedule the meetings. If they're both ready to go at the same time, we can schedule them the same day, but we ought to space them out more than we have in the past. And you very well may want to consider holding this at either the Agribition building or the same facility that Kelly's Dance is looking at for their recital, because you'll have plenty of room, and you are going to have people that are going to attend, and offering them the option of Zoom is not a meaningful chance for them to attend, I think.
Exactly.
Okay. And because I'm acquainted with some of those folks, and I'm technologically disadvantaged. They are technologically hopeless.
So I can follow up with that. Thank you, Mike, for your comments. I think they're spot on. I've received numerous phone calls from landowners on 63 and 64 that want to get this process moving. 64 has Collins Township is doing a road improvement project, and there's some things on a culvert structure that we need this to happen in order to move forward, and they're anxiously waiting to get that going because they have a road that's deteriorating they need to take action on. 63, we had a culvert fail on that a few weeks ago, and we had to kind of speed up trying to get our numbers on that because it needed to be replaced, and almost, to my understanding, almost all of our culverts on 63 need to be at a different elevation, as the historic review found that they're not in the right place. And so there's one that hopefully we'll find the right position for it, but there's definitely a lot more on there, and we're starting to get into the rainy season after a couple months of being dry. So I want to find a way to get these ditch hearings underway as soon as possible, and if we have to wait till mid-July, then so be it. But I want to be on the front side of it because there's definitely action items that need to get placed. We need to take care of them. Definitely getting a lot of pressure from landowners that we need to get together. And I think it might take a while to get both of them straightened out in terms of meeting time.
So CD 64 is not waiting for any more work from Houston Engineering currently, correct, Lisa?
Right. CD64 had a little bit of a different scope on our end. It wasn't a full historic review and repair report. It was a culvert sizing and determination of that as constructed and subsequently improved grade in the vicinity of that downstream culvert. The purpose being it needs to be replaced sooner rather than later, and you guys wanted to do this work in advance so it can be set at the right elevation so we're not moving it in the future. So with that, I'm not sure if you in the past have typically followed that process where you do the public hearings. This would be, in my mind, more similar to CD 60 or CD 32 last summer, where we had provided that as constructed grade and a culvert sizing for those county culverts. So if you didn't do the hearings for that one, I'm not sure that you would have to do the hearings for this one. You could just work with the township with that culvert size that's recommended and the grade to get that installed. But maybe John or Michael have more information on that process.
Well, I was just going to suggest that we move forward with scheduling CD 64. We're not waiting for any more reports from them. And then if the board still wanted to do CD 63, both of those hearings together, that one would have to wait for July.
So Connie, do you have some dates you want to offer us, or Paul, do you have some, or?
Well, it sounds like no. I mean, well, we have 30 days with the notice that we have to put out there, so we're already into the end of June, no matter what. So that's the soonest we could get together. Is it worth looking at the historic review and what we can do on the repair report on 63? Is at the same time that we're getting together for 64? Does that make sense? I almost think it does, because it kind of helps us get started on that one, because I think 63 is going to have some complex challenges to get straightened out. But it also doesn't pay to have a meeting and just connect half the business either. I kind of got two sides of it. But again, whatever window we have to try and get this thing speeded up would be greatly appreciated.
All right.
Well, if you don't mind having them separate, then I'll just schedule the historic review hearings for both of them as soon as I statutorily can, which is about 3 to 4 weeks. And I'll work with Fairground.
Me. Yeah,
Okay.
then let's utilize that space, okay? Okay, very good.
Okay.
Anything else, Connie?
No, I'll work with you, Lisa. Thank you.
All right, before we go into administration, I'm not sure how long it's gonna take, so unless somebody objects, we're gonna take 5 to 10 minutes. You have something, Doug, first?
Did I miss something, or did we finish? We had to have a board action, and did we finish that?
Connie can just set them and then put out the public notice for the hearing. Is that what you're asking?
Okay, no, we did authorize that?
One note, Mr. Chair, just to let anyone know watching who would be attending our workshop that it will be starting late. And
Scheduled for 10:30.
10 o'clock.
Yeah, we're obviously not gonna make that today, so. Okay, all right, we're gonna take 5 to 10 minutes, everybody. Thank you. All right, we'll call the meeting back to order. Thank you for the break. County administration will review the calendars. Looks like Commissioner Wright is first today.
I had a meeting in Glencoe with administration and county attorney on county property that we'll be seeing shortly in our agenda. The road project on Tagus was slated to begin in the end of June, and the contractor called, I believe it was last Thursday or Friday, and asked if they could start basically yesterday instead. And so we didn't have any time to send out letters to the residents along there, which is somewhere just short of 50. So for a couple nights last week, I started to go door to door with the information packet and just let everybody know. So had some pretty interesting conversations. Everybody was, for the most part, supportive of our efforts to try and do different things on Tagus and relieve that it was getting paved. Got into some good conversations about our building project and property taxes, but and things like that. But it was a good experience, I guess, just to be able to meet with that many people. I did get most of them, I think. Other than that, phone conversations with ditches 63, 64. I'm glad we were able to kind of get some things heading in the right direction on that one. So.
Yeah, since our last meeting, also by Zoom attended the Southwest Adult Mental Health Consortium meeting. Once again, trying to deal with what may or may not come up with mental health problems across the area, especially through adults. A lot of good things in the works. Hopefully that's all just planning and not needed. Also had the Planning Commission meeting on the 13th, and that went well. Like Commissioner Wright said, some phone calls about some issues with the animal shelter and a few other things, but good conversations and ready to stay working. So, thank you.
All right. Several fairgrounds phone calls and discussions regarding projects there, and then the issue that we addressed earlier. Other than that, a relatively light couple weeks for me. Department head meeting and a big negotiation session with the Minnesota Nurses Union and our public health nurses. That I think soon we can give an update on that. That was very positive. One thing I want to bring up, and it's kind of not typical for this update, but we do have a Trailblazer meeting Thursday, and Commissioner Kruger, if I'm wrong on this, interrupt me, but the ridership numbers look like about 80% down right now. And we'll find out more Thursday, but I don't know what that does to our local share as far as contributing. It might do nothing considering how the funding sources come in. But I don't know. I don't know that Doug knows either. And when it gets to him, if you can answer those questions, that'd be great. But we'll talk about that Thursday at that meeting, and we'll look for some updates. But as we talk in our individual committees, personnel, or in this case, budget, please keep that in mind that we might have to think about some numbers there too. And maybe I'm worried for nothing, but I just wanted to bring it up to everybody. Okay? Commissioner Schmansky?
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Since our last board meeting, we did have a workshop following that meeting. It's always good to get additional in-depth information on our projects during our workshops. On May 7th, we had the Prime West Joint Powers Board meeting. Prime West, we met by phone conference rather than meeting in person. We had all 24 counties on the line and discussed several things. We have been doing some financial scenarios related to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we are prepared for the worst case, but statistics tell us that we had very few cases of COVID appearing within the Prime West health clientele. So we're pretty satisfied with that. We are talking with the Minnesota Department of Human Services about procurement going forward for our health plans in our expansion counties. It looks like the procurement will be postponed until next year for an effective date for the expansion counties to come online fully in 2022. So that's kind of where we are. The response that we're getting from the Department of Human Services has been very, very good. Recently, they are working with the county-based purchasing counties and really willing to, improve the environment in our relationships with state agencies. As Joe had mentioned, we negotiated with the Minnesota Nurses Association bargaining unit last week, and I also have a very good feeling about that negotiations going forward, and anticipate that we'll have good news to share soon. That is it, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Kruger? Mr. Chair, I'll run through my calendar here. On the 12th, I had a JD8 contractors meeting. I also had a department head meeting by Zoom. Later that afternoon, I had interviews on STS. We had 3 good candidates, I believe it was 3, and it worked well. It was kind of challenging to do it by Zoom, but it actually ended up working pretty well. And on the 13th, I had one watershed, one plan. There's some challenges going right now in getting the implementation of this with the COVID. There's some local share money that some of the bigger participants counties are not necessarily willing right now to spend that money. So we're looking at hiring a coordinator. So there is some challenges. I was going to try to get it on this meeting, but I'll have to try to get it on our June 2nd meeting. SWCD is going to take it up in their board meeting, some changes to the MOA and some other policy changes that we're going to run through, and I'll give you an update on that on our next meeting. On the 14th, we had the agenda review, and again on the 15th, I was back out on JD8, and I'd like to. There's been some challenges out, especially with not being able to have any meetings. It's been challenging to add repairs, needed repairs, or add-ons, I should say, to the contractors' work. And I've been talking to I've been on a lot of time, a lot of phone calls with the landowners there. Once you start seeing what's going on, it looks different than all our meetings that we did have. So it's somewhat challenging to get it down. Construction is moving along now until we got this bigger rain. I'm not sure when they're going to start back up again. We also have a couple issues with HHS tile up there. After this rain, we're going to run a camera in there. There's something not working quite right on where we ended into the catch basin and parking lot. So we're going to check that out. I'm pretty sure it's probably roots of some kind in between. And then Commissioner Nagel asked about Trailblazer. I've been checking into that. I'm also waiting for our next this Thursday's meeting. What I've been following up, and the reason that at least I approved that Trailblazer do some of the work, is it was all budgeted money. It's all under some of these COVID plans on how many people you keep employed and how he's managing it. I obviously put a lot of trust in to our director there that it's running properly. He's pretty much assured me that this is budgeted money, but to Commissioner Nagel's and my own and our whole board, I mean, we're going to have to watch everything go forward, on when it comes to newer money. I guess I was just going to say it's probably more of a concern than a worry. I mean, we got a lot of things to worry about with all this going on. And I do have a haircut appointment set. This is my second or third one for June 1st. that's the day before our meeting, and if the governor is nice, I should be able to get my hair cut by the 1st of June.
I can't get one to the 5th, so I got one more meeting we're gonna rock this.
She knows I'm wanting it bad. I don't have anybody in my family that I quite trust to cut my hair.
Sweetie Todd is not a relative.
And then it's nothing pertains to my calendar, but I just did get a text from my daughter. She works for Mystic, and I see she's officially going back to work on Tuesday. So I'm just glad to see some of these things opening up.
Sheila, anything to add to the calendars?
I don't think so, Mr. Chair.
All right, I'll let you run this part of it since the mic's over there.
Thank you. I think it's looking like we'll probably not be able to start workshop until around 10:40, 10:45. An update for those waiting for us.
We'll take a break afterwards and let them know.
Okay. Item A, consider approval of letter of support to the Honorable Elaine Chao, Secretary of the U.S. Department of Transportation, supporting the U.S. Highway 212 Freight Mobility and Safety Project for consideration of federal financial assistance under U.S. Department of Transportation discretionary grant programs. Each of you have a copy of that in front of you. It is also in the board packet. Thank you.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I guess I followed this mostly. If it takes a board action, I move to approve sending this letter of support on to the Honorable Elaine Chao.
Motion by Commissioner Kruger, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smansky, any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. Commissioner Wright? Commissioner Polmeyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Smansky?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
Commissioner Nagel is yes.
Thank you. Item B, consider approval of collective bargaining agreement with Minnesota Teamsters Public Law Enforcement Employees Union, local number 320, clerical unit, for December 22, 2019 through December 17, 2022. A copy of that collective bargaining agreement and the changes are in your board packet.
Chair, I move the approval of the collective bargaining agreement with Minnesota Teamsters Public Law Enforcement Employees Union, local 320 clerical unit for December 22, 2019 through December 17, 2022.
Is there a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Polmeyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Smansky?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
Commissioner Nagel is yes.
Thank you. Item C, consider approval of agreement for medical examiner services with Anoka County for a cost of $88,368 for 2021. The current per capita rate of $2.46 will remain the same, so any adjustment would be population-based. The 2-year average for McLeod County indicates an increase in population over the prior period of 53, resulting in an increase of $131 for 2021.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Wright. Is there a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Smansky. Any discussion? Commissioner Wright?
Yep.
Commissioner Polmeyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Smansky?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
Commissioner Nagel is yes. Item D, Sheila, why don't you start with this, please?
Thank you. Discussion of county property usage with Sheriff Raymond. Sheriff Raymond is not here with us. I do not believe that he is online. He is not in the room. We had a meeting with him recently and asked some questions, and I'm going to go over a document containing what was discussed in that meeting, and then I will pass it on to Commissioner Wright or Commissioner Kruger. Any questions or additions before I start?
No, go ahead.
Thank you. Discussion of county property usage, McLeod County Sheriff Scott Raymond. In reference to Minnesota Statute 387.29 Subdivision 2, motor vehicles furnished in the enclosed documents. This statute states, the Board of County Commissioners, by resolution, may furnish to the Sheriff of the county such necessary motor vehicles and supplies therefor as are needed to carry out the duties of office. In 2017, Sheriff Raymond participated in a discussion with County Attorney Michael Young and Board Chair Joe Nagel reminding him that the county provides a vehicle to him with anticipation that it will be used for official duties only, and that use of the vehicle as a means of transportation for other use is outside the scope of his official duties or duties of the office. During this meeting, it was discussed that Sheriff Raymond was observed using his county-issued vehicle for personal use in December 2016. That information is noted below. I'll go over that in a moment. In a meeting with myself, County Administrator Sheila Murphy, on April 24th, 2020, the Sheriff shared that on April 16th, 2020, he attended a protest in St. Paul, Minnesota, Ramsey County, at the governor's residence. He also shared that a county-provided vehicle was used to attend, along with a county-issued credit card to fuel the vehicle. In addition, a passenger who was not registered for the McLeod County Sheriff's Office ride-along policy rode to and from the event with the sheriff. Concern is held in understanding how attending a personal political event in a county-issued vehicle and using a county credit card for fuel was for county-related business. Also, in the April 24, 2020 meeting with myself, Sheila Murphy, the sheriff shared that on April 10th, 2020, he used a county-issued vehicle and a county-issued credit card to purchase fuel in Golden Valley, Minnesota, Hennepin County. The sheriff noted that he was in the area to obtain an off-duty carry gun at Frontiersman Sports in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. Concern was held in understanding how a county-issued vehicle and a county credit card for fuel to obtain off-duty personal equipment is considered county-related use. The sheriff shared that he believes this is justifiable and allowable county-related use. In 2017, a memorandum was recorded by Michael Young, McLeod County Attorney, in regards to using county-related property for activities that were not county-related. Attorney Young and Board Chair Nagel met with the sheriff regarding a complaint submitted. The sheriff apologized and stated it would not happen again. In this complaint, the sheriff was observed in December 2016 using a county-issued vehicle to purchase holiday meal items, including meat from a market in Nicollet, Minnesota in Nicollet County, and pies from a restaurant in Eden Prairie, Minnesota in Hennepin County. The sheriff had driven from his personal residence in McLeod County to both of these locations with a county vehicle without any relevant county-related business near either destination. Since the incident was first reported with the sheriff attending the protest, the board and county staff have continually been receiving or relayed complaints from the public and staff. These concerns were addressed in a meeting on May 12, 2020, in a meeting with Sheriff Raymond, Commissioner Wright, Commissioner Kruger, County Attorney Young, and Administrator Murphy. When asked, the sheriff also shared in the May 12, 2020 meeting that the county-issued vehicle is used for homeschool instruction, in which he participates in providing in the transportation to getting there. The instruction is provided in the Dasko-Cokato area, which is not in McLeod County. The intention of bringing these items to the board meeting on May 19, 2020 is to resolve public concern brought forward as a result of the situations shared above. I would like to note again that Sheriff Raymond was notified about this meeting, about this document in the board packet, and is not present, to the best of my knowledge, online, and is not present physically to address or respond.
Commissioner Wright?
Yeah, perhaps a tough item, but we did have a conversation with the sheriff, as noted, and he did say that he wished people would come directly to him with a complaint. However, we know it doesn't always work that way, and due to the number of complaints and questions from the public, we felt that it needed to come here to the board meeting to at least be aired out. As board members, we do not have any control over what the sheriff does, but we do control county expenditures and the property, and those expenditures must be for a public purpose. What we do from here, I think maybe we've seen strike one, we've seen strike two, and hopefully we don't have to find out what happens with strike three as future decisions are made on county property or with county expenditures. So I don't know where to go from there.
Right. Very good. You have some?
I guess I'll just comment that B and I met with them. There's just a couple of things I want to go through. I just want to emphasize that in talking with Sheriff Raymond and my own opinion, I just want to clarify, I had no problem with him going to any event, whatever he wants to go to. My problem is specified in this document was that he took a passenger in a county-owned vehicle. That's the issue. And back to the first paragraph, the statement, we may furnish him a vehicle. That doesn't mean we have to furnish him with a vehicle. We may furnish him a vehicle. So that is a concern. And I also, through this time period, while I've been a commissioner, I've had a conversation with Sheriff Raymond concerning some of these things, and I was satisfied at the time that things would change, and now I'm a little bit disappointed in seeing the same habits reappear. And the reason this was important to come up is the amount of complaints that I had. I was very surprised in everything that I go through with calls from the public. I guess it's due to social media, but things must have been posted on social media. And people that never call me, mostly constituents or different people around the county. People that usually don't call me called me, and also some of our employees called me. So that's how we got here today. I mean, Commissioner Wright and myself thought it was only fair to at least put it on the agenda and let the rest of the board ask any questions if they have any. So that's all I really have to say. Thank you.
All right. With that, Commissioner Clancy?
Mr. Chair, thank you. And I did visit with our county attorney yesterday to discuss the situation, and we verified with the sheriff's office that county-owned vehicles are to be used only within the county or for county-based businesses if they're outside the county, and any personal use of the vehicle by any staff, whether elected or employed by the county, should be utilizing their own personal vehicles. And so I just want to reiterate that there's no special privilege using a county vehicle for personal use, and that should not be allowed in the county. But we'll anticipate that our sheriff will abide by those same regulations and respect the taxpayers of McLeod County. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and I'm sure this will no longer be an issue. Notification of the board workshop to be held June 2nd, 2020, following the county board meeting. This meeting will be held in person, and will also be held via Zoom. Call and participation information will be posted on the agenda. Yes.
With arranging this meeting and workshop location for June 2nd, with it being so close to when the June 1st changes were going to be coming about, we have a group of us that get the agenda ready and review it. We've decided it would be best to wait to go back to the Glencoe City Center until the meeting after. If there are any concerns with that, let us know. But our intention now would be after this to return back to our regular location.
Yeah, we can talk about that too. This is working really well. Okay. Whatever you guys think is best. Mark, do you have something?
Yeah, I would, Mr. Chair. So I appreciate that, and that's one of the reasons I was kind of hanging around. So June 2nd, we have a number of items that we'll be forwarding on from the Planning Commission meetings. One of them we talked about, there's potential for more than 10 participants that may show up. I can't tell you exactly. There were a number of them that came and spoke, so just looking for direction from the board as to how you would like to handle that if in the event we do hold that meeting here and there's potentially going to be more than 10 guests for an item.
I'll let everybody open up their opinions. Mine is, if it's that big of an issue, potential issue, is we set a separate meeting date from the board meeting and address it at the fairgrounds or something like that. Mike?
Well, a government meeting isn't subject to that 10-person limit. We don't have any idea what number of people are gonna show up, but we do have control over social distancing at any public meeting, so we can require that. So we're gonna stop people from attending unless they cannot do so safely.
Yeah, I don't know, what do you anticipate, Mark, for people?
So we were.
Unfair question.
And we did that at the planning commission meeting. We adhered to the social distancing. We spaced the seats out more than 6 feet apart. We asked for people that weren't there for that particular item to please wait either in the foyer or outside, and everything worked extremely well. My concern is we would be at probably 11 or 12 people if the same group showed from the planning commission meeting. So in the event that that's held here, you may have that. Now, that's the only item we will forward on to you for the regular part of the agenda because there was a crowd here. So, on that particular item. So, with that being said, I can't speak, obviously, before I forward that on to you. It was announced that we potentially will be putting that on the June 2nd agenda. And for full transparency, I did speak with Mr. Nagel about that, and I agree with the fact that maybe we look at another meeting, but at the same time, I just wanted to get some direction from the board of how you wanted to handle that if in the event we have a larger gathering.
Well, how's the rest of the board feel?
Mr. Chair, I just got a question for Mike. If just by chance that there would be an influx of a lot of people, we could continue that meeting and then we don't have to go through, we could go to another facility if we wanted to, we wouldn't have to go through all the notification again, or?
Theoretically, yeah, but you also have the problem on a 60-day period that you're required to act, or something is granted automatically.
And I appreciate that. So with this particular one, we've got the indefinite waiver, so we're lucky for that because they did sign that. That's the solar issue before this issue started, before the pandemic really hit the requirements of trying to separate and stay home and isolate. That's the item. So they were very gracious. They've been willing to sign multiple extensions for us, and now it's indefinite. But in the best interest of them, they are in a hurry because of their investors to either start working on this project if it does get approved or move on. So.
Well, we'll see how it goes, huh? Yep, we'll see how it goes, and we'll deal with it. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, open forum. No one else is in the boardroom. Anyone online wish to address the board? Press relations, anything? Before I read this and ask for a recess, I want to remind people and we just glanced at it a little bit a second ago, we're not discouraging people from coming to the boardroom for the meetings. However, we are wanting to give that option with technology. So please, if you're able, go ahead and utilize that. So, anything else? All right, looking for a motion to recess to the next board meeting, June 2nd, 2020 at 9 a.m. at the McLeod County Courthouse.
Mr. Chair. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Polmeyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Szymanski?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
And I'm yes. Motion carries 5-0.